Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to begin our advanced manufacturing panel, The Italian Way. We are very pleased to see you all here today, and we're looking forward to an exciting panel. This will include both questions and discussion here, and then there will also be some time for the audience to ask questions as well. So we're looking forward to that. To introduce the agenda very quickly, we'll have the panel discussion for about an hour, and then following that there will be a network and reception, and this has been sponsored by the Italian Trade Agency. Could we please give them a round of applause? So I'll introduce myself first. My name is Mariner Merrill, and I'll be moderating the panel this evening. I am a researcher at the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory, and I work there in reliability and durability of materials, including both polymers and steels. My connection with the Italian industry is sort of interesting. For the last couple of years, I've been honored to work on the Marine Corps' new amphibious combat vehicle. It's interesting, this is actually an Italian vehicle. It's the Iveco Super AV, which the Marine Corps bought through another company, BAE. They bought the design and then made some modifications for the U.S. needs. By doing this, they saved several $100 million and many years of development time by taking a proven technology from Italy. So it was fun to me when I heard about this panel, and I'm excited to be a participant on it. So, next.
So I'm Giulio Busolini. So I'm representing the National Cluster of Advanced Manufacture here in the US. But I was also the former Science and Technology Counselor at the Embassy of Italy. And so afterwards, I also will tell you what we have done with the cluster in the past years in order to support the science and technology cooperation between Italy and the US. So thanks a lot to the Italian Trade Commission to have organized this event tonight. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Paolo Califati. I'm the Innovation Vice President for Prima Group. Not only, also I am the responsible for the additive manufacturing division. Prima Industria is organized in three main divisions: Prima Power, Prima Electron, and Prima Additive. Our business is mainly everything regarding the sheet metal working machinery, laser for welding, additive, cutting. We are very active also here in USA because we have two factories here, one in Minneapolis, the other one in Chicopee, and then a very important branch office for us in Chicago. My background, I came from research, to be honest. I have a lot of collaboration. I strongly believe in open innovation, open profitable innovation, and my wish is open some collaboration also here in terms of research and innovation.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Martin Kinsella. I'm Director of Business Development for Kamau, the link to the Italian Trade Agency. So thank you very much for the invite, very honoured. From a Kamau perspective, we're actually a wholly owned organisation by Fiat Chrysler based in Turin, but we are here in the US. In southeast Michigan, we have approximately 1,500 employees, and we do engineering, manufacturing, installation, etc. for automation, but mainly automotive, approximately 70%, and then other industries as well. They're very honoured to be invited here this evening, and looking forward to a very interesting panel and discussion with regards to the collaboration and potential collaborations between the US and the Italian agencies. Thank you.
I'm Marco Petrolo from Politecnico di Torino, so a technical university in northern Italy. I work in a research group with other 6 faculty members and some 15 grad students. We work on virtual testing and manufacturing of mainly composite structures. And we have our own code. We developed this code. It's a software that is available. And basically, our mission is to provide capabilities that are not currently available in commercial codes, say Abacus, NASA, and so on, with higher accuracy and way less computational cost.
Good evening. I'm Marco Rossoni. I'm a research fellow at the Department of Mechanical Engineering at Politecnico di Milano. I have been also in the early this year, 2019, a visiting scholar at Georgia Institute of Technology, Department of Mechanical Engineering. My current research topic is about design for additive manufacturing, and especially my PhD thesis has been about spare part production by using additive manufacturing. Other research activities, my research activity and also the research group where I am involved, are virtual reality for industrial application, augmented reality for industrial application, reverse engineering, and the development of knowledge-based applications supporting the product and production system configuration. Thank you.
Is the video, there's a video. Thanks. So, this is a very exciting panel, and I love the fact that it's focused on manufacturing. This is actually the first time that we've had at IMICI here that we've had a foreign trade organization of any type that I'm aware of come and participate and sponsor part of our conference. And the reason is, and the reason that they chose manufacturing is because of the core technology that this is. And so I'm just curious, how many people here are from Italy at some point? Okay, great. So another question, how many people here currently have, or in the recent past, say 2-3 years, have had some form of collaboration with an organization in Italy? Okay, a much smaller hand. And this is the point. This is why we're here. We're here to talk about this. So let's start, guys. So I understand that Italy is the second in Europe for manufacturing output. So tell us, if you were to look 2, 3, 4, 5 years in the future, what do you see as the best technologies, the ones that Italy's really going to be leading the world in, that all of us should be interested in knowing about?
I think in terms of the actual Italian flair and collaboration, I think the additive manufacturing is a key area in terms of the development for the future, where the Italian research locally and both here in the US and in Italy is making great strides. Then we have, let's say, the automotive industry within the Italian infrastructure, and also here on a global basis is kind of a key area. The advert, the film there showed a number of Italian products in terms of its manufacturing base that are now, let's say, moving not only from an Italian manufacturing base but also to a global base. So the Italian footprint, I think, in terms of its flair and collaboration and working together with other industries and countries is really where it's moving forward. But particularly, I think, in terms of additive manufacturing, those type of areas.
Okay, very interesting. Paolo?
Yeah, just to say something, some statistics, some more statistics about Italian market. I knew that Italy probably is the 5th country for industrial machines. That is important because the market is very huge. This because, in my opinion, we have an expertise in this field that is very huge. There is Coma here, also Prima Industrie, and probably additive manufacturing will be one of the future technology in this field. Today, additive manufacturing, to be honest, is a service, a digital service. Is a small part of the digital transformation. And, of course, this object is leading this transformation. So, I was looking at before all the paper here, no? Some paper talking about laser ablation, some other talking about 3D printing. So it's always very, very nice, no, to see all these technologies, all this attention, no, in this new development. And in my opinion, the future technology will be related to what we do today, but really transformed by this digital revolution. And this is very important.
Maybe just to add, I mean, when I was also a government official, I think the real major capability of Italy is the manufacture, the capability to manufacture. So sometimes when you need also to produce small pieces or small parts, the manufacturing capability of Italy is really incredible. So also when you are talking from the research point of view, if you need to build something in a quick way, and you need to rely to companies that are able to customize and to build something for you in a quick way, Italy is becoming a very, very incredible actor. So the supply chain is very distributed. So there are small and medium companies that are working very actively with the main contractors. And so now I'm putting the head of the national cluster of advanced manufacture. When we decided to build this interaction between Italy and the US on science and technology, the main idea was to show that there are this manufacturing capability that is available also to research community in order to build new, define maybe potential new proof of concept and new demonstrators, also using the capability that Italian companies are having, not only in Italy, but also in the US. So here you have an example of two major companies that are have this capability in Italy, but also are successful here in the US. And so we start from there. And after I'm happy to describe maybe later on what we have been developed. So just about the challenging is a very broad capability that I think would be available for the research community.
Fascinating, thanks so much. And I'm going to flip the question around a little bit. So Marco, you mentioned that you went and saw the Boeing, you visited Boeing this morning. So tell us a little bit, some of the technologies that you would see that are maybe here being developed in the US that seem very exciting, that would be of great benefit to Italian companies?
Well, recently we have been cooperating with the University of Washington in Seattle and British Columbia in Canada, if it counts. And
Canada counts, it's okay.
Yeah. So the reason why we are cooperating with them is because they are very well involved in the manufacturing process of the 787 and the 777. In particular, they deal with the curing process. So they define the recipe for curing those pieces of structures. So the idea, the reason why we are into this is to provide, let's say, numerical models to improve this kind of process. And also the short-range aim is to enter with machine learning. So something that is very interesting in this kind of activity is that we can provide, we can put big data into the loop and allowing informed decision making during the process. So if the process is going well, we can continue. Otherwise, our numerical model can give some alert saying change the temperature, change the pressure, and so on. So this is something that we are working on, and there is a strong cooperation with the North American institutions.
Fascinating. Thanks so much for that example. I'm interested. How did that collaboration start? Because you're Politecnico Torino, right?
Yeah. Well, basically two ways. First way was through this kind of events like IMECE, so networking. So you attend the same session, you present your paper, they present their papers, and so you understand that there is plenty of room for cooperation. Then you start to talk. It's not fast. It may take a few months or years to make this happen, but it happens. Other ways are through cooperating projects. Basically, we work a lot with European projects. And the European projects, there is room to include American institutions, basically US or Canadian. So with University of Washington, but also NASA and University of Michigan, we created this kind of cooperation through European funding, basically.
Fascinating. So they had funding on their side for their part of the program, and then you had funding on your side for this development of these codes and predictive capabilities. Awesome. Great. Thanks. So one of the best things about manufacturing, of course, is that manufacturing is both the beneficiary of and the instigator of research. That research and manufacturing are integrally tied together. So I am a little curious from the industry side, like say Prima Industria. How do where do you get your research? You know, do you have some in-house research? You also collaborate with universities. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, Merli, to be honest, I work in Prima Industria since 13 years ago, no? After my PhD, and then I think that Prima Industria is a kind of Disneyland for the engineer, because no, it's true, because we have a lot of research activities for the laser sources, for instance, till starting for the from the diodes, so from the semiconductor, then digital transformation, and then additive manufacturing, new laser processes. No, and the point is that this could be not done, I mean, by ourselves. I mean, we need a lot of collaboration to do that, because when I started with this role of innovation manager, I understood, very simply, a graph, the market grow, and then the technology portfolio grow. And then it's very difficult today to grow in both terms, no? And many companies in the past who tried to do that failed, they closed. So it's important to understand that the collaboration in this sense is very important, because today we cannot renounce to have a research in new technologies, because it's the future, because new technology means more margin, no? But the market growth is very important. And for instance, the Italian trade agency in this game is very important, because they can help us, no? In making this network, in looking for nice competence, no? To certify the competence, and then the collaboration that we can have around USA. In Italy, all the research activities we have in collaboration with the university, we have collaboration with the Polytechnic of Turin, with Polytechnic of Milan. We funded the Competence Center, Industry 4.0 Competence Centers, together with them. It is a kind of benchmark where you can go there, you can test, and also our customer could test our technologies, could certify our technology in terms of application and so on. This is very important. And also in USA, in my opinion, this should be, not improved, but created, no? The collaboration with the university is very important, especially when you treat new technology like additive manufacturing. Today, everybody thinks that by additive it's possible to do everything. Yes, that's true. But not everything is profitable. So we have to pay attention to that. Because sometimes technology is dangerous, especially for the small company.
That's an excellent point. Sometimes technology is dangerous. We have to watch that. So on the so additive manufacturing, huge field. I know that here in the advanced manufacturing track, I can't remember how many sessions they had on additive manufacturing, and there were several in other areas. Marco, tell us a little bit about sort of your view of the future of additive manufacturing. You know, what do you see this both there in Italy and here and in general?
Okay, so my field of expertise is more on design for additive manufacturing. So my focus is more on product. But beside the advancement on the hardware side of the additive manufacturing in this case, but in general, all the manufacturing technologies, I also want to put the attention on the development of the software side. So for me, it's very important from my point of view, it's very important the development of IT software that support the user by using those kind of machine, like for example, by using big data. If you want to deal with big data, you need like dashboard that give you hint about the real meaning of data. So we have also to invest on this side of the advanced manufacturing technologies. And this is my point of view. So we have, as a research group, a couple of collaboration with universities in US. One is with Georgia Tech, where I was directly involved, and it has been about artificial intelligence or some kind of artificial intelligence for designing for additive manufacturing. Another collaboration has been with Stanford University, the School of Medicine, where we try to print prosthesis, so biomedical device, by using additive manufacturing. Another collaboration we had with University of Buffalo in 5 years ago, I think. And so this is my point.
Awesome, thanks. Those are great examples. So I'm going to ask one more question, and then we'll have a question from the audience. So start thinking of a really good question.
Maybe something. No, I really would like to pairing what Marco and the two Marcos say somehow. So, exactly. And I think after maybe we can ask also to the industry their point of view. But the cluster, so just to let you understand the different approach that the national cluster have in order to support research and to translation the research to the industries. When we start to open a dialogue with the US, we try to leverage the science-to-science dialogue that all the sciences have, you know, as you described, in a more programmatic way. And we try to use the Science and Technology Agreement in order to identify the major priority where we would like to engage each other. So when we organized the first, in the framework of the Science and Technology Agreement with Italy and the US in November 2017, where also ICE was part of the institution, government agencies involved. We decided to have NSF, DOE, NASA, and NIST together, and identified from the Italian side, the Ministry of Economic Development and the Ministry of Research, start to identify and start to use the Italian roadmap in advanced manufacturing was developed by the cluster as a framework where we could start to build the dialogue. And we start to build the dialogue on the lower TRL approach, because if you're going on a higher TRL, we have a competitive component that could be critical for both countries. And so we start to identify three major areas of interest, and we start to identify, we have a small, groups in the afternoon after we present the roadmap, identified created these small groups with a company that was part of the cluster that have operation in the US, a group of US PIs, and a group of Italian PIs. And from that, we make three proposals to NSF in order to see if there is an interest from NSF to fund this kind of project. And one of those was successful. The one of those was successful was able to raise $1 million, and the Italian, let's say, company that was involved, that was the operation in the US, was Comau. And from there, we start the dialogue. Okay. So what I would like to tell you, there are two ways to collaborate. One is the science to science, but also try to use, that was a pilot. So now we are trying to see which are the success story and what we're willing to gain back. But the idea is to really build a more programmatic dialogue could be benefit all the scientific community on both sides of the country. So that is what I would like to add in the conversation, and I think maybe the other colleagues can say more. And an additional component that I think we are trying to push as a cluster is the mobility of the researchers. So we are also we help somehow to identify a potential proposal within NSF and have mobility program of US researchers, young researchers, in Italy for 15, 20 days at postdoc level in order to understand our ecosystem, and from there start to build a potential joint collaboration with Italy and the US on the advanced manufacture area. There is some very simple tools that you, USPIs, I think in general terms, can use in order to collaborate with us. And on our side, we can start to match funding on the, from our funding mechanism in order to collaborate in a more efficient way. Is somehow an asynchronous funding mechanism because we start from one side and after we try to pairing, but I think is demonstrating that it's working. So that is the additional element I would like to bring on the conversation. Thank you.
I was going to say, from a Camaro perspective, we've kind of, you mentioned about collaboration and funding. So we've done many projects with Milan and Polytechnic and Turin, where we see our responsibility, two things. One is to innovate and collaborate. To innovate in terms of technology and advancement, but also to collaborate in terms of two reasons. One is to move forward in terms of a company and an organization, but then secondly, to encourage the next generation of workforce. You know, we see it as our responsibility. I think all of us here in the audience, it's our responsibility to encourage the next generation into manufacturing and engineering. And you know, us as Kamau, you know, as an automation company, when you bring in students who are maybe 5, 6, 7 years old into a facility that's got 500 robots producing maybe a vehicle every 30, 40 seconds, they're hooked in terms of manufacturing and engineering. And it's very important because we as organizations, all of us here, have to develop the next generation and encourage them in. And I think working with the polytechnics, with the universities, with the high schools is an absolute must. It's a critical, not only for Kamau as an organization, but for the industry, because we have to, you know, bring those new ideas, those new thinking, etc., but also then to encourage them into our industry, because it's our need for the future. Yeah, and it's an exciting time, and it's kind of then we do multi-country, let's say, programs where we have maybe students from Italy through the Kamau master program will then come to the US for several months. We'll put them working with, let's say, interns from the US to build that bond, to build that teamwork. And as a global organization, we form those links at that age, and those links then will last a lifetime. And we see that as a very key core competence within us as an organization to act on a global basis and make that connection.
Fascinating. Marco, you had waved. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, basically, the cooperation with US institutions for us is fundamental, because aerospace industries and aerospace institutions in America are top-notch, let's say. But luckily, we have positive feedback in a sense that, for instance, when we put in the loop PhD students, grad students, the exchange is almost always positive and fruitful. So we really seek for this kind of cooperation, because 99% of the case it's very productive, let's say.
Awesome, thanks. So we have a time. Is there anyone in the audience that has a question?
For me, the Italian way to manufacturing, and I'm dropping the word advanced, has always been her dedication to beauty. And unfortunately, in the world we live in today, there is less concern about that. I'm curious to know how the Italian companies and the universities are dealing with this issue, and are you doing anything to try to re-infuse beauty into your manufacturing?
So I'll restate just briefly, so in case those in the back couldn't hear, but that the Italian way to manufacturing has one of the strengths of it has been about beauty, and therefore, what are we doing to maintain or strengthen that focus on beauty as an aspect of manufacturing? Is that correct? It's a good question. I think there's been already some good points here about that you can build anything with advanced manufacturing, with additive, for example, you said, but maybe it's not always beneficial, or these issues of design. So how does this tie then into the next level of beauty?
Actually, at our department, there is a research group that work with additive manufacturing for furniture, to build furniture, jewelry, and those kind of stuff. So it's kind of an example of how additive manufacturing or advanced manufacturing bring beauty to to the world. I don't know how to say.
Yes.
I'm also
To be honest, you're right. No, I received a couple of requests from jewelry or
yes.
shoes maker or other, yes, for additive manufacturing machine to make very high customized product. Of course, if you look for some shoes, Italian shoes, handmade Italian shoes, you can see that the cost of these shoes is not something that you can look for, not just from the shell. So it's something different. Yes, there is the attention, in my opinion, on this kind of things for sure. No, but today I think that in Italy we understood also that industry is a very important part of our economy. No, for what we say. No, so there are many things that we are doing at this moment. No, new things. I think that today we are just we are trying, to collect everything together, and then we are trying to promote our innovation in all possible terms, also beauty. I mean, for sure with this competence center, with the incentives for the industry 4.0, with the funded programs. And I think that there are a lot of potential synergy between USA innovation programs and Italian ones at this moment.
Great, thanks. It's interesting that you bring that up. I have an interesting, I have a colleague that actually is an architect and moved to Italy. He's working with Polytechnic Milan in additive manufacturing of stretched fabrics. So they start with stretched fabrics and then print rigid polymers on them. And when the stretch is released, then obviously you get a self-forming mechanism. And they're making very, very large structures. And they're beautiful. It's for an architectural application. But it was interesting to me that it did require both a degree here and a degree in Italy for him to really make that happen. And there were some interesting things with the scale of the manufacturing that he was not able to do, I think, really anywhere else but there. So that was cool. Did you want? Yeah.
If I may add something on this. In composite structure, basically, okay, in Italy there are automotive industries that are using composite structure for cars. Still, it's quite expensive, so you use it for just top-level cars. But one of the issues to be solved in the next years, is to not only to make these cheaper, but also to solve problems like the superficial to improve the quality of the surface of the part of the automotive part. Because right now, if you do it in composite, the quality is not as metals. So the beauty must enter this concept as well, in a sense, I'd say.
Excellent example, thanks. So I want to shift gears a little bit. When we were talking earlier, you mentioned these lighthouses, or this lighthouse program. Do you mind just telling us a little bit about that and what you've seen?
So I just tried to, say in few words our manufacture policy somehow. So the Ministry of Research launched in 2012, I think I remember, the creation of 12 national clusters. One of those was the Advanced Manufacture Cluster. The Advanced Manufacture Cluster was the most successful one because it's mainly a public-partner partnership at the national level, collecting, now there are more or less than 300 members, let's say 70% are on companies and 30% are research members. There could be national labs or universities. And within this 70 participation of company, this 70% is more or less small and medium companies. And when we are saying small and medium companies, they're really part of the major main contractors. So from there, the cluster, the main role was to develop this national roadmap for manufacture that the government need to, address for the future years, and could be also a piece of our European European strategy for advanced manufacture. From there, the Ministry of Economic Development took the major priorities and say, okay, we like what you've done, and let's have specific funding mechanism that could be negotiated directly with the companies in order to create these open factories that could be available to the local ecosystem and showcase which are the best experiences in digital transformation or different areas that might be interesting to the ecosystem that works in advanced manufacture. And so from there was a funding of more or less, I think, 150 million. I don't remember now, more or less. No, maybe a little bit less, divided in 4 major factories that were able to develop this new, approach and showcases to the supply chain. And that is something that's been very successful. We had 4 of them at the moment. We are now having the pipeline other 3 or 4. There will be another launch phase of funding for the Ministry of Economic Development that was just finished 2 days ago. So we are having the pipeline for sure, the 2 or 3 available. And those ones are complemented to another line of funding that is supporting the competence center that was described before. So there are now 8 or 7 competence centers that are more like the national institute you have here. They're providing maybe less facilities, service facilities that are pairing also with the activity that the lighthouse are doing. So the lighthouse is a way to showcase what the industry is able to do, and is open to the supply chain in order to learn together new ways of advance the manufacture concept within from the main contractor to the supply chain. But I think maybe a company could showcase better what I'm saying. It's correct.
Yes, it's correct. Yes, it's important. No, the involvement of the company, the direct involvement of the company in this game is very important. Also because the point is that we have a very deep revolution. That is this industry 4.0. The digital transformation is a very important revolution. If you think to the worker and to the company, that is have to change their mind to way to work. So innovation, this term means for sure maturation of the innovation programs first. Second means training, all the support for reskill and to have the right skills for the new technologies. Third, the point is the new business. Because many times, as I told before, the point is that if you grow with your market share, then probably you have to look around for the new technology, for startup participation, for new business, because you cannot put your resources everywhere. That's important. The lighthouse concept and the competence center are focused on these 3 points, that are the 3 pillars of the research and innovation programs. Research, training, and education, and new business. So you can go there, you can test your application, you can test the technology, the adoption of the technology, your business case, and then you can go on. But just some number about the big data and about the new space economy, because today big data means that we have to pass from the 4G to the 5G. What does it mean? it means that today we have 3,000 satellites around the world, no? And this number will drastically grow. It seems that in 2024 we will have something like 25,000 satellites around the world. 25,000. So we have a lot of private companies that today are engaging this race, no, for the space economy. In the past, there were just the public company, no, public agency that foster this market. And additive is very important for this market. No, it is very important for two reasons. First, because in 2025, additive will be the third producer of big data for the traceability of components and so on. Second, because every time you launch the satellites into space, it's very expensive. The cost is about 40,000 euro per kilo. So you have to customize these components to be very light. These components should be very light, but robust. Then the point is that the life cycle of this component should be 3 years at least. So it's very important. So as you can see that there are some unbelievable number, no, driven by this revolution. And then there will be some total new market for manufacturing and new technologies. And this is very important, especially for the competence that you have to look around, for the new competence, and to reskill the people that are working at this moment in the company, in the traditional company.
Fascinating. That's quite a success on the program. Martin, were you going to add?
I was just going to go back to the lighthouse, that activity. So, as an Italian company based here in the US, similar to the lighthouse, we then formed a consortium and then worked together with a number of organizations locally in Michigan, then to bring the Lightweight Innovations for Tomorrow Institute, which is part of the Manufacturing USA banner. And as a Italian US company, invested in that institute and invested in that as an organization. And then to close the loop, more recently, we've actually, thinking about big data and thinking about advanced manufacturing, we've now actually relocated our digital team into the institute. So we don't, from a multiple number of reasons to kind of bring that innovation, the collaboration, which we discussed earlier, to bring that ecosystem within the in and around the institute with us as a company and with the member companies and member organizations. And what we've seen is that's really done many positive aspects to the actual process, because we're learning and growing from it, the institute are learning and growing from it, and the local industries are now learning and growing from it. And we're actually now feeding that positive activity back to Italy and saying, in terms of investment in local institutes and academia, is again to kind of reinforce it. It's absolutely must.
That's fantastic. Can you give, put you on the spot here, but can you give any, like a specific example of a specific technology or a specific company where there was where the Lift Institute really, had a home run?
Yeah, I mean, multiple programs have been initiated over the number of years. One was with regards to a particular project with low distortion welding. So in the naval industry, distortion within the welding process of naval ships, submarines, etc., is a massive issue. And what the collaboration did as the actual program was then to review the current techniques and bring in other industries, for example, automotive, and how we do various body assemblies, and looking at those particular techniques in terms of geometry, product structure, product design, and try and reduce that distortion in terms of the actual process. And you can imagine putting together a naval ship, if you can reduce the distortion by 5 to 10%, the amount of time, cost is saved is significant. And what we've now found is that the Navy and the companies involved, ourselves and Hunting, Ingalls, etc., is really benefiting from that moving forward, because now we're being able to reduce the distortion, reduce the thickness of the material, which has now then enabled us to reduce the weight, the mass of the actual the naval ship or the submarine, etc. Carry more ordnance, carry more material, carry more mass, and be more efficient in terms of moving through the sea, etc. And that's kind of really having a ripple effect now across.
That's a great example. So, out of curiosity, how many distinct entities, just guess, were involved in that particular project through LIFT? I mean, there's a lot in the consortium, but
In that particular project, maybe 30 different companies and organizations and institutes, etc. But the ripple effect of that particular project now is like some people at LIFT refer to it as like an iceberg. You only see the top part in terms of the institute there in Detroit, but down below is a complete ecosystem of academia, institutes, various organizations, etc., and companies that maybe there could be 400 or 500 engineers working on that particular project.
that's incredible. If 30 is the tip of the iceberg, it's pretty awesome to consider the whole thing. So thank you. Thanks for that example. So this came up a little bit with this question about beauty, but if you had in very few words, how would you define when we say the Italian way to advance manufacturing? Just throw out something as an estimate. What is the Italian way? We've had a couple of comments already made, but just very quick. And Marco, do you mind if we start with you? Something that's intrinsically Italian way.
I go back to the beauty topic. I do teaching assistant in fashion design school, and we also trying to bring some of the basics of additive manufacturing to the fashion designers. So one of the ways should be beauty.
Great.
Well, I propose something a bit different in a sense that we can see beauty also in the scientific history of Italy. There is a strong school of physics and engineering that is based on very distinguished scientists of the past. So we try our best to keep this tradition going on, and by cooperating with countries like US, I think this can be getting just better and better.
It must be rough to carry the torch of Leonardo da Vinci, for example.
It's very tough.
I'll give an example in terms of beauty, because that was a very good question. We actually produce a collaborative robot that can carry 170 kilograms, which is really off the scale. And the thing about beauty was very interesting because we produced the product, we had it so it functions, etc., as a collaborative robot, very unique. But the time spent on the aesthetics of what it looked like and how it was branded, and the colors, I mean, it was like, no, we need to go, Mark, no, we need to look at the aesthetics and how it looked, etc. It was a very, very interesting project. The fact that solving the problem was one scale, but then the aesthetics of how it looked, and taking your point, the flair and the beauty, I mean, it's a robot, okay? So it doesn't need to look beautiful, or it doesn't need to look, have a particular technique or look. But it was a very important subject before we launched it to market, about, even down to the color of the branding. Where was the branding positioned? How was it going to look when it was moving? It was very, very interesting. So it is something that Italy do very well, because it could have just been unique color.
That was interesting what you said, that you actually take into consideration what does it look like even when it's moving.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, a robot, it should look graceful. It shouldn't look as if it's kind of stressed. It's, when we put in a facility and it's not moving, that's very bad, because if it's not moving, it's not making money, and then the customer gets very upset. But when you look at, we put it's called an open gate, where we have maybe 18 robots work on a particular product, simultaneously joining, could be riveting, welding, etc. In 40 or 30 seconds, it is absolutely a thing of beauty. You see 18 robots that are moving at very, very high speed, within millimeters of each other, every 30 or 40 seconds. personally, I could watch it for weeks. And I think it is a thing of beauty because the aesthetics of how we do our facilities, and again, go back to the point about manufacturing, a facility now is as clean as this conference room, even cleaner. I mean, the actual, how it looks, you know, the presentation of the facility, now a lot of time is now spent lighting. Where is the lighting? Where is it, you know, how is it going to light the product? How the product moves to the facility. Very, very important. Although it's a small detail, when you walk into a manufacturing facility now, it's not like the people think it is. It's absolutely clean, pristine. It looks like a hospital. You know, we have facilities we've put in that are absolutely spent in terms of how they look. It's not as important as making the product, but it is absolutely a key part of how the product looks. And that's just the facility. You know, we do pay a great deal of attention, and it doesn't cost anything in the scheme of things. You know, to make it look good, if it's done in design, we do everything in the virtual world. Whether it doesn't cost, it's not a big cost driver into a finished product if it's done correctly.
That's an excellent point. Thank you.
Yes, beauty is a very important part for us. Yes, we care about that. we know, no, but we are in more than 80 countries. I think, like you know, that countries around the world, and not for everybody this aspect is very important. I think to India, for instance, or no, they don't care too much about that. No, the approach is different. Our approach is different, I think. No. I'm part of the board of the Factory of the Future. It's a public-private partnership that very important for the European Commission when they make the call for funding and so on, but also for in some other board, European board. No, and one of the first time I went there, no, to understand how we can promote our innovation in those tables. I was surprised on the fact that when some Italians talk about quality, it's strange, but no, there are always some German that say, "Oh, well, we are better," no, and so on. Yeah. It's strange, no? And then I understood why usually customers prefer our products, our solution, than some other products. No? Giulio before said that we are more efficient. No, our approach is totally different. We are flexible. We are able to customize. We are able to put the customer and his needs at the center of our innovation programs, for instance. Just one word. In my opinion, we are competitive. That means that quality is good. That means that we are much more flexible than the other, but more in general, we are more responsive in terms of customer needs. And then makes this competitive, our company competitive, but also our customer competitive, respect other solutions. This is my personal thing.
That's incredible. Thank you. So I think that unfortunately our time is running out soon. I would be very interested if we could one more time, and just going down the row if we can. Maybe we'll start with you, but give it 30 seconds. Really keep it very short. But if there was sort of one last thing you wanted to make sure that everyone knew about collaborations with Italy, about technology in Italy, about the opportunities and the mechanisms, the ways to collaborate, anything like that. Sort of one last thought. And we'll let it we'll let it close with that. So we'll start with you and move down.
I tried to, pairing what he said about the beauty, but just to give the last sentence. But somehow it's embedded in our culture. And so when you tell us what is the particular component of culture in our manufacture, it's embedded, and so it's very sometimes difficult to describe it to you. I would like just to give you some numbers. In terms of science-technology collaboration between Italy and the US, we have more or less 800 science and technology collaboration between universities. They should try to leverage, but try to remember that now Italy is becoming the first destination from US students that are willing to, embed it and to learn this kind of flavor. They promise that there are not so many, let's say, engineering or schools that are able to benefit of this kind of movement of US university that are also open their own campus in Italy, that are not benefit to collaborate directly with our ecosystem. And so my message is that try to use a different, let's say, mechanism that could be provided at the government level, but also to pairing as much you can the kind of collaboration that we are able to provide, to support when you're willing to collaborate with our country. And the cluster could be one of the mechanisms that is now trying to demonstrate that we are able to maybe build up a top-down collaboration supporting the bottom-up approach that you are maybe able to build through this, also these conferences.
Thanks. 30 seconds.
Yes, I agree more in general with Giulio, no? Also because we are part of the cluster. So I cannot say that some different point of view. No, for me is one of the first time I've been here, no, especially with the Italian trade agency, no? And then I was quite surprised about the organization, about the network. Today in Italy we have a very good ecosystem, especially for innovation programs, especially for automation and all in this market. As a prima industria, we invested in USA, no, because we have 2 factories here. We have 2 very important R&D here for our business. That is laser sources. That is the heart of our machines, and then also the laser drilling and advanced laser process that we produce here and we research here in USA, in Minneapolis. And for us, USA is our second market. No, it means that there is some value in what we do, and especially in how we do that. No, that's important. I think that, as I told before, we can be competitive. Our approach is different, and then the organization and all the network built here is very important. It's very organized. That's why I think that today there is some value in collaborating with Italian companies here.
Great, thank you.
So I'll give 2 examples. One in terms of competitiveness. We as an organization, we have to be competitive, because if we're not competitive, then we will die. And we have to innovate, and we have to remain competitive. And that's the way it should be. If we're not competitive, we shouldn't exist. That's the first thing. Second thing, I think it should be highly praised to the Italian trade agency to come to such an event as this, such a pristine, prestigious event within the American organization, as an agency to promote the collaborations between Italy and America. Because I think, as you mentioned earlier, and as the CEO said today, that this is different. This is a different approach by the organisation to kind of bring and highlight, the opportunities that exist between the US and Italy. And I think it should be very well commended, the fact that this should be, and more than likely will be, the start of many of these type of agency events where certain arenas that maybe were not looked at as opportunities for collaboration should now be looked at opportunities for collaboration across multiple countries, etc. But this is, for me personally, this and as an organisation, this has been a fantastic event, because here we are, at the ASME event, and as Italy are promoting the Italian companies here in the US. So I think it's very, very useful.
Great, thanks, Marco.
Well, in university, as you probably know, we are almost always starving for funding. So the cooperation is not always easy. But my experience in this year is that as soon as you have a good idea and you find out synergies between partners, maybe in the US, then somehow you succeed. It's a matter of perseverance, good luck, timing, but I'm quite positive on this. So I feel like I'm positive about these kind of activities, and I do thank you for this kind of experience that I make. Very appreciated.
Thank you very much. Excellent comment. Okay, Marco, make it good.
I totally agree with him. Actually, we need money, and actually, our way to spread our research here in US are these kind of conferences. I'm very glad to be invited here at this event and this conference. Just this.
Okay, thanks so much. Let's give them a round of applause.
Is there any questions? Maybe from the audience? Any questions maybe from the audience?
I think that they'll throw things at us. Food's next. But I did want to thank again the Italian Trade Agency for doing this. We can give them a round of applause again, too. And then last but not least, Dr. Will Emblem, who is the track chair for the Advanced Manufacturing track this year. Thank you so much for giving us this time. So with that, we transition to the secondary highlight of the evening, and we'll now have the reception. After a few minutes into this, the Advanced Manufacturing track will also be presenting their Best Paper Awards. We encourage you to stay, mingle, eat some food, and then applaud those great authors. Thank you so much.